That's one of the things I thought was very interesting about this episode too. The whole DMAC dynamic and the fact that both Kate and Tommy are like really kind of making an effort with DMAC to make him feel part of the family and stuff. So like the question I have is, we know Tommy's history with Ghost and Tasha and Tariq. So, we know that to Tariq, he was like an uncle figure. So, like, what do you think he has learned from, what happened with Tariq? And, what things could he possibly use to guide DMAC in a better direction? Because, we know that in Tariq's case, he was kind of corrupted by Kanan. And, once he was corrupted, once he learned the truth about his father, Tariq kind of couldn't stay out of the streets. Like it was inevitable that he was going to live that life. But now Tommy has a chance to try and, do something better with DMAC and kind of lead him in a better direction. But, in this episode, he's already kind of enabling him a little bit by having him do the social media. So, what lessons do you think Tommy could you utilize from Tariq's story to kind of make a better path for DMAC? And do you think that he is actually going to make that connection in his head and be like, oh, this happened with Tariq, so I'm going to try and prevent it with DMAC? So Dana, what do you think about that?
I think that when you introduce children to something that that they want to do, and it's not something that could be solely positive, it's going to work out negative and it's going to fuel that beast. And because of his age and thinking that I know everything, it's going to cause him to act kind of out of control, and sometimes you're not able to tame that. We've seen that when it came to Kanan, raising Kanan. When he had that, little bloodthirst, and then his mother taught him how to shoot, and the practice, and we saw how that developed later on. We saw that with Tariq, how easy now it is for him to shoot and do things. I think unless you're not born that way, for example, going back to Brady, then that would be a much easier thing to stay away from. I think by incorporating the nephew into this business even more, it's going to backfire on him. He has that little Koalition streak that I think may be hard to rein in. In terms of lessons, Tariq, I don't know. Each kid is different, and I really hope that they're not doing a copycat version of just another young Tariq. You look at the differences. Tariq was given everything, but he still was like a whiny, complaining kid who wanted to do things his way. With this one, it's really hard because we don't know so much the full personality of the nephew right away. I would say that maybe if he was there, more of a guidance. We don't have Kanan or Kanan-like character speaking into his ear to turn him against his family right now. So I think that it could be saved and that he can just be more of a better trained version of Tommy, maybe, but it's still really early. I don't know what the lessons would be that he learned, except for you have to be really hands-on. You can't really leave kids to their own devices, because then again, kids will start thinking things and they think they know everything and they end up screwing it up even more. So I hope that it's more of a hands-on approach with him, especially regarding the social media, because all you have to do is post that one post. And even if you may delete it a second later, we all know that the internet lives forever. We've seen it. And we've seen it bring down people. And this, with the fact that the DEA, you're creating an organization. And what is that word that we've all learned these past few weeks? RICO. So we don't know what new cases can be flying.
My bad, I was muted. But yeah, great points. He's DMAC is definitely at risk of going down a dark path, especially with the whole online thing. Because police, the police have like entire divisions where they're just reading online stuff, to figure out crimes and stuff. So, I mean, yeah, like that's a dangerous path to set him on. So. But Rich, what do you think? Like, because with the original Power, we got to see the whole progression of Tariq's character and how he went from being an innocent young child to being this street guru, if you will, like being taught by Kanan and learning about his father and Tommy and stuff. And that's still very fresh in Tommy's mind, I feel like. So do you think that he's going to kind of do anything different with DMAC? In this case, what do you think?
This is a very good question. It is hard to think about. I feel because of the comment that Dana made about the social media stuff, I think there's going to be some type of family tragedy this season. I don't know if something happens to DMAC. Maybe something happens to JP, but it kind of feels like it could head in that direction because, again, I think it's a very big deal that Tommy decided to let DMAC do this stuff, and yet JP doesn't know anything about what his son is doing because he did tell JP, hey, maybe when your son feels better, he can work with you, and this could be a family business. So I kind of feel like, and I don't know what happens in the next couple episodes. I don't know what happens in the rest of the season, but I kind of feel like that's going to be a conflict between JP and Tommy, the fact that his son is still doing this stuff. And once he finds out, he will not be happy with Tommy. So we need to see what happens with that. But to answer your question, I kind of feel like Tommy is going to try and steer JP, DMAC in a different direction. I don't really know how. What I do know is that obviously Tommy likes Maria. Okay. She is not about that life, but we obviously know that at some point, because that is Tommy's love interest, he will win her over at some point. But the thing is that she is basically trying to instill positivity in somebody. And you saw how he was very vulnerable at the moment when he had to rush to the hospital and get DMAC some help. And she just so happened to be there to help him out. So I kind of feel like because he has got a little bit of a chance to know her, to see her, how she operates, how he tried to give her a ride. And then she said, no, I'm just going to take the bus. I kind of feel like that's going to have an influence on him as well to try and, obviously Tommy is never going to get out this life. All right. He loves this stuff. He's too good for this stuff. But there are people around him that he cares about. And I do find it interesting how when he spoke to JP, he said, no, you are valuable. You are important to me. That's why I want you to focus on this business. But yet DMAC is coming in saying, hey, Uncle Tommy, you should let me do this. Let me help you out with this. So he's probably going to have to struggle with this for the entire season. But that's why I say I don't know exactly what type of things he's going to instill in him from how he dealt with Tariq. He's still going to give him advice on certain things. But the one thing I will say is when he had that conversation with Tariq and the fact that this is Tariq's war, stuff that he has to worry about, well, Tommy is involved in a war as well, in case he doesn't know. And when family can be in the crosshairs of that war, this is when it gets a lot more personal. This is why I definitely think there's going to be some type of tragedy this season. I just don't know which character it's going to be. An important character to the show. I'm not talking about the other secondary characters. Yeah, some of those people will get killed, but I'm pretty sure something is going to happen. As long as people are not communicating with each other and they have their own agendas, something bad is definitely going to happen. But we'll see what happens. But that's a good question. I'll be very curious to know what the listeners have to say about that question because they may have some good answers to your question as well. But go ahead, Dana.
Okay. Here's the thing that I was wondering that kind of you guys talked upon that made me really wonder: is Tommy being too soft with his family? Because how he's running a business is not the same way as he is running his family. But when the family starts crossing into his business, he needs to treat them like a business. And therefore, I wonder, yes, he's concerned about D Money, and his brother is constantly saying, I want to help, I want to help. I'm wondering if he is going to treat them too soft, and that's where mistakes can be made. That could be his weakness for this season. In terms of the girl and Miguel, that's a whole nother dynamic that unfortunately for me is too repetitive to last season when he was with Gloria. You're trading, one drug dealer for another one, and I just don't like that. And with her speeches of, I'm just trying to be a good girl, we already know that there's an innocent that always seems to die around, either 5 or episode 9 or whatever. And she's just doing these long speeches where it's like, yeah, I'm going to be next to go. So we're going to build this little bond, and then I'm going to die again. So I just don't like this. I don't like it at all. I don't like the fact that he's even googly eyes with her. No, if you really look at it, it's technically, again, only been 2 days since Liliana did that, spiritual speech in the beginning, avenge me. It's been 2 days, so, literally telling us, not showing us, but whatever. I just wonder if family is going to get in the way of Tommy being Tommy, and this is, it raises too many complications with the D Money bag character, whatever his name is. I just don't like it.
I agree. I just want to make one quick comment. I don't know if you were going to ask this question, Gary, but I'm very curious to see at what point in this season are they going to shift to the time when Tommy went back to New York? Because that's going to happen at some point.
We don't need to see that.
Well, we don't need to see that, but I kind of feel like that's going to happen because there's the crossover point in the show.
Who does they say it's even a crossover episode? There's no reason to do that.
I'm pretty sure it's going to happen because you don't have him show up on the other show, and then it's not like we don't ever see Tariq and Braden ever show up on Force. I kind of feel like there is going to be a crossover.
Tommy had loose ends he had to deal with that was seasons and years in the making. What exactly do these kids have to do with Tommy now? I feel that their growth for their show is to figure it out on their own. There is literally no reason for them to come to Force at all. You want to be the men that you claim to be? He gave them peace. In terms of that and what Tariq was going through, he gave them peace. So it's no reason for them to be like, Uncle Tommy.
No. Well, I'm fine with that. But what I'm saying is we saw Tommy show up in that show. So I'm saying at some point in this season, I want to see if they're going to have an episode where he takes that trip. They don't need to show everything that happened.
There's no reason to.
Like just basically showing what led up to it. Like
they have to show that because it wouldn't make any kind of sense for him to just all of a sudden come back.
Yeah, I feel like they do have to connect those dots because now a lot of people are going to be wondering what led up to him coming back because that was such a big moment in Ghost episode 8 or whatever it was when he came back and they had that showdown or whatever. That was such a huge moment. So it's like I feel like they have to kind of connect the dots and show that. And Dana, I know that you want the shows to stand on their own, and I completely understand that because they totally could stand on their own, but I feel like they are going to play that card to get people invested in the show because they know that the first season was received so poorly, so I think they are going to have Tariq or somebody else show up at some point in this season just to keep the interest level high.
That cheapens the show. This is not the Avengers. This cheapens the show in terms of, oh, only watch Tommy because it has the original characters, Tariq, in it. And I don't know, maybe Tasha pops in and be like, hey, I have some coffee. I just don't like that at all. I don't feel that there's any reason for him to be in this, for both of these kids or anyone to be in this show. I think that if you want to sit and prove, hey, we apologize for season 2, show us that. Don't say, here are these characters that you're only going to get in this one scene and they're not going to be shown again. That's a crutch. That's, you know, it's too much of a crutch. And a lot of things can happen off camera. We don't have to know why Tommy went back to New York. Maybe it could have been like, oh, I was asleep and I had a dream that, you know, my life won't be complete unless I, you know, have this conversation with them. And then so in the middle of the night, I'm going to just go and do a drive-by at the house. Not a little bang-bang drive-by, but literally drive by that house and have that conversation with them. It just serves no purpose at all. Well, for him to come in. Unless...
Well, no. I agree that it wouldn't serve a purpose. The only reason why I say it's going to happen is for some of the things Gary said, but also the fact that you now have this task force coming after Tommy. There's no way he's going to be able to stay in Chicago when you got all these people coming after you. So I do expect at some point it gets too hot. He has to get out of the city for a while. I can see that happening 100%.
That relates
he
to
can't
my
go
next
back
question.
to New York. He can't go back to New York. It's too hot, as they said. It's hot in there. It's too hot to go back to New York City. They already know that he's not dead anymore. So for him to come back to New York, he can't do that. And he has too many people who want to kill him back in New York. Him even going back there was dangerous as it was. I can't do it.